you know? He was like, wait a minute, we got a couple minutes before we hop on this thing.
No, we're live now. So.
We're live already? Oh, yes. My bad. I thought my fault. I saw the 6:10 and I messed up. My bad, y'all.
Good evening, everyone. You're back here at another DYCD Barbershop. Glad to have everybody here. Hope everybody had a wonderful Father's Day. Those who had fathers, hope you had a good time to be able to spend some time with them, to share with them, tell them how much you love them, give them something other than socks and underwear for Father's Day. Give them a lot of love. So we're here today and we're going to be talking about featuring fatherhood practitioners and talking about reimagining fatherhood. And once again, these are the people who either came up with concepts of fatherhood or fatherhood programs they're running and managing, or they're actually doing classes. So these are the people who are behind the scenes, who you really very rarely get to see, who's doing the work, who's on the ground, who's in the classroom, who's helping these fathers steer them to different places and services. This is about the fatherhood practitioners, and we're celebrating them. How you doing, Jerry? How was your Father's Day?
Hey, what's going on, Scott? My Father's Day was good. I hope yours was as well. We have our tradition every Father's Day. We do IHOP. We were able to beat the rush, so I was excited about that. And then it's just always good to spend quality time without any kind of, hey, I have to do this, I have to do that. Sometimes the biggest gift for a father is just a day to relax, right? And so having that opportunity was just awesome. Outside of that, I'm actually excited about all these amazing guests that we have to hear from experts. Being a father is something that is continuous levels of improvement. So to hear the resources out there, to hear different forms of expertise out there, to just empower me to be better. Now, you can't have nothing better than that right now.
Great. So those people who, I often get a question about, people say, where are fatherhood programs around New York City and New York State? People are always looking for fatherhood services. I said, there's a lot of them. Yes, we're happy to have DYCD fatherhood programs and what we do at DYCD, but we have a number of fatherhood programs, another number of fatherhood specialists. The first person I'm going to bring up in the shop is our queen of New York City fatherhood. This young lady is a doctor. She's doing big things. She can sit in the room with 30 of us hard rock head guys and shut us down and straighten us out. And we love to have Dr. Lena Green in the house with Dr. Lena Green. How you doing?
Thank you, Scott, for that warm welcome. I'm doing pretty great, thank you, and I'm excited to be here with all of you this evening to talk a little shop about fatherhood and fatherhood services.
Tell us about the Akira Center and the Akira program.
Okay. So first, I usually like to talk a little bit about myself because I think that helps to give it some context. So I'm a clinical social worker and psychotherapist, as well as a fatherhood practitioner. My organization is called the Akira Center Foundation. And I'm happy to say and share with all of you that we are a nonprofit community-based 501c3. We're based here in Harlem, and I like to say that we're a center without walls, although we have some brick and mortar spaces that we provide support services in. So pretty much we're a community-based agency that offers a wide range of programs to support fathers, children, and their families in the community. The programs are usually open to all members of the community. It's on a voluntary basis and it's free of charge. Our goal is to support families by providing resources, education, and training to strengthen family relationships. We have a strong emphasis on mental health. And one of the reasons why I started this organization is really to promote not just responsible fatherhood, but also to address the stigma of the absent, particularly the absent Black father, which is really just a myth, right? We know that our fathers, Black fathers in particular, are fathers that are there more than any other culture and or race across the lifespan. And that's backed by research. And we want to do our job to promote family resiliency and basically provide, valued and essential resources and support across the continuum. So we've been doing that since 2012. We have an array of programs. Sometimes they're group-based programs, and most recently, especially since COVID has begun, we've been doing our best to provide public-facing programs. So one of the things that we're looking forward to doing this year, we've usually done it every year in the past in June, but we didn't have an opportunity to do it this year. But we will be doing our annual Father's Day Fatherhood Awards breakfast that will now be in September. So Scott, you have been a recipient. You have also joined us for our Night of Prayer for Fathers, which we've done for several years in a row. And this year, we're going to be looking forward to doing not just the annual awards breakfast, but we're going to be doing a mental health panel, hopefully in either September or October. And we're looking forward to providing more public-facing programs. So that's a little bit about us. And you can find us online at akiracenter.org.
Got that. You got a phone number for them to call to, or?
Sure. If I can drop it in the chat, would that be okay?
Yes, we'll drop it in the chat because we're trying to build a network of services and places we go. I hope you can stay on as we bring in some other panelists. I know you have a lot of other things to go, but we're going to try to bring in some other of our panelists, and then we're going to chop it up a little bit. But Jerry, I'm going to throw it up to you to bring in our next guest. You're muted, Jerry.
Of course, being on Zoom, somebody has to forget to unmute themselves, right? So, yeah, I'll definitely bring in our next guest. One of my favorite people in the world. I've done men's meetings with him. I've had him train me on multiple different levels, from mental fitness to just physical fitness, and just iron sharpens iron with different groups. So it's a pleasure to just bring in right now Adrian Adote, who we call AD. You can see him on IG as Coach by AD. And I'm just excited to bring him on right now. Coach, you got anything you want to say to the people, especially as it relates to men and fathers, the help that we need right now trying to take off this COVID wave?
Well, Jerry, we got two coaches. So make sure you say AD.
Oh, that's
What's going on, y'all? I appreciate it being on. Yeah, man, I think it's been an interesting time, right? Because we've had not only, obviously coming off of Father's Day, but just coming off the pandemic and really the structure of the family has been really tried under this, right? Like, we've seen a lot of situations where folks are at home with each other more than they've ever been before. They would have those moments where they would be able to dip off. And so I think it's been really awesome to be able to be supportive and provide support space for men who are fathers to discuss some of the challenges that they're having at home. So as part of Room for Growth, which is the men's group that I help co-found and moderate, one of the things we were doing was trying to help support those fathers during this period, right? So having those conversations. And as far as like losing the weight, I mean, reality, once you can get out the house, you can move more. Once you can move more, you can get those pounds off. But at the end of the day, man, I think we also have to leave room for the fact that, this was a difficult period, and the imperfections that happened during that time are okay. We can turn the page now, right? I think it's one of those things that comes up in a lot of my conversations with men who are fathers, in terms of either questioning their ability to father their children a certain way or be the men that they want to be. Tomorrow's a new day, you know what I'm saying? And it's the same mindset I bring forth in my coaching. Tomorrow's a new day. So you might have sucked today, but tomorrow we're going to get up, we're going to start all over, and we're going to figure it out. So you ate your hamburger tonight. You're not going to do that tomorrow. Tomorrow you're going to get those mixed greens and that salmon broiled, you know what I mean? And we go get it popping. So, I just love to be part of the conversation, man, and really evaluate and kind of explore what the definition is of not only fathering, but what it looks like to be a man in this new period, right? Because a lot of that's being challenged now, man. And, I'm raising two sons. So like, it's a whole different dance that we're doing in terms of like trying to provide that support. So excited, let's get it.
Appreciate it, Scott. I'll pass it to you. I know we got some more people coming in for shape ups and haircuts. So who you bringing in?
Man, we got some heavy hitters in there tonight. You talk about a coach. We're bringing in Coach Lynn. Dare to dream. Come on in, Coach Lynn. I'm not even sure what country he's in right now, but we're here to see Coach Lynn. Come in and talk to me a little bit, Coach Lynn.
I'm in flight right now, as we can speak, flying, as all of us in this panel can do, clearly. And I just want to say, Coach, wow, I'm so inspired by to hear somebody else talk like that. I'm so excited, especially a young man. I love it, baby. I got you. Don't worry, we'll be right with you. Ooh,
I appreciate you. Appreciate you, Coach Lynn.
I love it. So
Coach, talk a little about the work you're doing.
For those who I haven't had the wonderful honor yet of seeing in person, My name is Coach Lynn. I have the wonderful opportunity of wearing many hats. One in particular is I am the CEO and founder of an organization called Deeds Driven Dads. And of course we started many moons ago. I'm so happy to see this wealth of knowledge and talent, because Doc, you remember many years ago, and I remember way back, it was only a few of us talking about fatherhood and they laughed at us. We needed food stamps too, huh? We needed, yeah, I need some babysitter. Where the laundromat's at? See, and we got laughed at. We were ignored. So we kept pushing fatherhood. We kept saying, Father, we're here, we're equal. That's my blood, that's my DNA. And look at us now. So I'm so proud of you. These Driven Dads now has evolved because we've been there in the game for so long. We're able to have a voice now on many different platforms for you, your different missions, if you will, your assignments. You're all on assignment. You understand that. We're here to support you in that. Any networking that we have, any connections that we have, any information, anything like that, we're coming to you first, just like a team. As well as now we have expanded. Scott and I were talking earlier in the shop before everybody got ready to get in the chair. We've expanded worldwide, particularly since we're in New York City. New York was a boundary. You know, we're not made up of one type in New York. We can't have it, especially the West Indies. So we've now expanded the last few years, and it could have never been more right than through COVID, and us having to now use the Zoom, this platform that we're on now. We didn't have it 3-4 years ago. It had to be all in person and all this other. Now we could reach the moon. So These Driven Dads is going to be leading with us and helping you get involved with your message going international. We got so many other things.
That leads me into our next panelist, which is coming from all the way from St. Lucia, and I hope he can turn his camera on. He's sitting on the beach with a cocktail and a cigar. Melvin Austin, who's heading up right now, he's retired, but he's working harder than before when he actually was working. He's working harder now. True. I understand it. And Melvin, I can't see your camera; it's off. But we have Melvin Austin representing Fathers Forward. So go ahead, Melvin. You still there?
Can you hear me, Scott?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, I guess I lost the video. Fathers Forward. I know we created, as most of you know, especially Coach Lynn. It started out as what was it, Coach Lynn? You still there?
Yeah, everybody's on.
I'm here.
Okay. It started out each borough had each organization had a specific borough. And then I guess now you know what, my memory is fading me after these 2 martinis. But at any rate, Fathers Forward, I guess our basic theme is, as Coach Lynn knows, we recruit our fathers from the schools. Okay, we recruit our fathers from the schools basically behind Scott, something that all of us are involved in, and that's Dads Bring Your Children to School Day. And then we go into the schools and we recruit those dads, and it's about giving them information that they don't readily get from their peers, information about the services that exist for them. We talk about all kinds of stuff. You know, I know a brand new father right now who is really struggling having a new baby and, you know, not having that, I guess, those grandparents to tell them how the baby's crying every night, Pampers and all that kind of stuff. And we teach these things. We bring the professionals in to talk about these things, education. You know, I'm preaching to the choir, as you know. And it's about giving resources and information where those resources can be found. So doing that, then we have presentations like Coach Lynn. He's helped us a great deal over the years. As a matter of fact, help us, you know, in our foundation. Also with Lena Green, that's on the call. But again, you know, we are 501(c) right now, and presently working with ACS in a number of issues. As Scott knows, yesterday we did Every Man Needs a Shot, basically to get those men of color involved in getting the COVID vaccine to protect them and their families. So we're involved in a lot of things. You know, we still do the daddy-daughter dance and so forth, and the Real Men Cook and merchandising. So we're moving forward, and I guess using a lot of the skills, and also you guys meeting many of you in the travels, using those basic skills and those friendships and collaborations to move forward with doing the work that our men of color and our young boys and girls, our young boys need so very much. Thank you for having me on, Scott. I'm going back to the pool. I appreciate it very much.
Well, hold on, Mel. We got a few more minutes before you get that third cocktail in there.
Okay, go ahead.
Hurry up. I'll meet you there too.
He's like, I'm out. He's like, I'm good. I see
Fathers
y'all.
Forward is on, we're on the website, fathersforward.org. What was you going to say, Scott? I can answer any questions, hopefully.
So I want, no, this is out to everybody now. So this is, we're going to start chopping it up right now. So we talk about fatherhood, and we talk about how's the best way that we can get ready. And then, we have 3 different segments. I'm letting everybody know we have 3 different segments. And these are the panels for the first segment. And our segment, this portion, is talking about education and fatherhood. For my panelists, we really want to be able to educate our fathers. I know we're talking about COVID vaccine now. We're talking about children education. We're talking about finances. There's a lot of things that we need to educate fathers about. Those who've been around me know that one of my big things I'm really issue is about start doing some more educating of pre-fatherhood of young guys before they become dads, of what we need to talk. And Coach, Coach Lynn, we always talk about they need to learn how to do that laundry, how to go downstairs and put their clothes and separate the whites from the colored so they don't get all pink clothes at the end of the day. I've done that a couple of times myself. But so for the panelists, anybody just jump in. What are some things right now in the field of fatherhood that we need to be working on as far as educating the field, educating fathers that's going to make us move the needle to the next realm? Anybody?
I'm gonna jump in.
Go ahead,
Right.
AD.
So one of the things I felt happened when I started to have my boys was my boys, my homies, drifted, right? So you start to have a family, you start to have kids, and then your boys start to drift off.
Hold on, AD. I left one more person. I left Raheem, my brother Raheem.
Oh.
Let me give Brother Raheem in. I forgot.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Raheem, you still there? I'm sorry, my brother. I just got so excited.
That's all good.
And Melvin, I think Melvin threw me off with that martini.
Nah, it's cool. It's cool. Martinis and pool. It's all good. It's all right.
Just for y'all to see what y'all up.
Yeah, you're not even showing video, man. Come on, Mel. I can't access my video.
Melvin, I messed it up, but we hear you. We hear you.
We hear you. We hear you.
It's all good. It's all good. Yep. I'm Raheem Brooks, program director for the CUNY Fatherhood Academy at LaGuardia Community College. Here we go. Start my video.
Here we
There
go.
you go.
There we go.
First off, I want to shout out Scott.
fellas.
Thank you, Scott, for having me here. I got my start in the fatherhood movement with DYCD. Man. We had a program at Strive in East Harlem called POPS, Paternity Optimizes Potential Success. And from there, I learned so much, and I learned from everybody on the panel. I definitely got to add that, and it's a blessing to be here, especially after Father's Day, and it seems things are coming full circle. I am the director for the CUNY Fatherhood Academy at LaGuardia Community College, and one of the things we're tasked to do is promote generational change through education. We work with fathers 18 to 30 years of age, fathers and expectant fathers, for that matter. And this program came about in 2012 as part of City University of New York, the Mayor's Office for Economic Opportunity, and the Young Men's Initiative. We offer 2 tracks for fathers. One of the tracks is for high school equivalency, and that is the GED or task exam for fathers that do not have or did not graduate high school. That's pretty much the biggest part of our program, and then a lot of guys are seeking ways to obtain their high school equivalency diploma. It's a 16-week program, 3 days a week. Since we've been up with COVID, we've been remote. A big part normally when we're in person is that the key thing is that we're on a college campus and we're exposing a lot of our brothers to a college environment. It's been different with COVID, but it's been amazing. We've been able to touch so many individuals and connect with fathers and their families through both of our tracks. And again, the HSC track, and there's a college and career prep track for guys that have their high school diploma and are interested in a career, something different. They want to level up. A lot of them that come to the program want to level up from whatever opportunity they're working at the time, or they're not working. A lot of our guys are unemployed or underemployed. So we assist them in finding different opportunities, different paths, whether it's going to college or obtaining some type of license in construction or EMT or anything that we have featured at LaGuardia Community College. It's amazing. We since 2012 and 2016, we were expanded to host those community college in the Bronx and Kingsborough Community College. So we're covering 3 of the boroughs at this time. For any father, again, who's interested in moving forward educationally, in addition to the education piece, I just want to highlight a big piece of our program is our mentoring component, where fathers come back and support, graduating fathers come back, college going fathers come back, and become mentors for our group, as well as our mentoring component. There's the life skills and parenting classes that take place every week, and it's been amazing. It's just I'm happy that we've been able to continue going on through this time and figure out different ways to connect and communicate with the fathers, which I'm sure we'll touch on. Different best practices in that. So, again, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure, being on with doctors and kings on vacation and and queens. Thanks again, Scott.
So I know, Dr. Green, you have to get ready to run, but I want to hear from you in this movement of where we need to get ready to move the needle for fatherhood. Can you throw me a bone and let me know what we can do? Because I know I want to hear from you before you have to jump off. So,
well, one of the things that I primarily focus on is mental health. I think that it's important to ensure that people are able to manage their levels of stress. We know that during COVID, stress levels have gone up, so has domestic violence, so has levels of depression and anxiety. And so those are things that I'm primarily focused on right now. I specialize in mental health clinician. Also working to ensure that we have opportunities to partner with mental health facilities throughout the city. I am also the executive director of the Hope Center, which is connected to First Corinthian Baptist Church. We are one of the first of our kind in that we have a free community-based mental health clinic that provides up to 10 free sessions for anyone who is in need of therapy. So you can be an individual, you can be a couple, you can also be a family. So parent and child can come and get services here. And really that, mental strength and mental agility really is an opportunity to, give you access and give you an ability to work on so many other things. So whether it's financial wellness, whether it's co-parenting strategies, whether it's education, being able to self-regulate is really an opportunity to really work on and an avenue to really work on other things, right? If life is frustrating, you can't really handle the day-to-day stress and challenges, you really aren't going to be able to do anything else. And so that's why that's why my focus is on mental health first and foremost, and then seeing what other opportunities are available for folks to work on. So Raheem very, very eloquently talked about, education, being underemployed or unemployed also as a challenge, which is also something that both contributes very much to stress. So that's my 2 cents, if you will.
thanks, Doc. Now, AD, I want to get back to you. I know you were getting ready to go on us. Go ahead, go for
Right.
it.
Yeah, I think, can you hear me? Guys, can you hear me? All right. So what I was saying was, I think what I noticed was there was this separation, right? Once you start to build a family, there's this separation that happens from your boys who don't have kids, kind of like going off to do their own thing and being like, nah, man, you're going to go do the family thing. And one of the things that I think is really important is to try to not, to normalize the notion of building a family, creating a household, doing all those things does not mean that we have to now separate from how we used to function when before my family. What that means is, I don't mean I'm running around the streets all day, but it means that, like, for instance, I just joined a motorcycle club, right? And I brought my sons to our blessing, right? And they had a chance to see me in the space around other bros on their bikes, getting familiar with it. But it also gave other guys who were there who may not have children yet an opportunity to kind of see what fathering can look like in this space while still doing something that you may think means I can't continue to be present as a father for my kids, right? So too often we separate the notion of, if I go hang out with my boys, that means I'm neglecting my family. And the thing is, there are more ways for us to bridge that gap. So I think every time we start to see those moments happen, and people talk about it all the time when you get in relationships, how, yeah, they just going over there doing a relationship thing, really being proactive at staying connected to your peers and your friends while you're going through the process. My cousin lived with me while we were raising our oldest now, when he was first born. And he told me later on, he was like, me being able to see you guys go through the process, and me see you specifically being a father to your son from the ages of 1 to 5, helped me understand the work that would be required for me when I got with my partner to start our family, right? And so trying to find ways in an organic way to be mentors to our boys, right? In a way where it's like, yo, this is what it looks like when you get with your girl and you're trying to create a family structure and still have fun and still do all these things. Because when you start to separate it, it creates this dynamic that says family means I can't be part of the community the same way anymore. And as a result, brothers, when they start to have children, kind of detach from the community to become so isolated. Try to keeping everyone together, because those resources that we talk about are important, by being able to have a brother there who's like, yo, I'm about to go to the park with my kids too, come through. This is a time for us to bond. Still keeping that sense of community. And I hope you understand what I'm saying by that. We don't need to isolate when we start to build families. We need to become more communal. And I think so often we end up finding that goes the opposite.
So you're saying like part of the education that we should be doing with, if I'm getting you right, I don't want to put any words in your mouth, but
No.
looking at this work in co-parenting in the field of fatherhood, that should be something we should really be looking at. Right?
It's a notion of inter-mentoring, right? Like mentoring amongst each other as men to men who are starting to have families, instead of removing themselves from their group of friends who are also men who don't have kids yet, but actually finding a way to be collaborative with them and show them what it's like to be a dad when it's their turn, right? Like I can show you what it's like more when you're around me than for me to tell you post. Like, hey, when I had my kid, I did this, that, and the third. No, like be there, see it, and let me show you what it's like in firsthand, right? So creating opportunities to mentor in that way.
So Coach Lynn,
that's a great point.
I know you do something like that too, don't you?
Yes, and he's right on point. That was the whole just behind the fatherhood peer mentoring, the fatherhood in particular. In the beginning, we just needed to talk to each other. I got 3 kids, you got 3. Where you go shop at? Where did you get that outfit? Where did you get their sneakers at? You see? What about this laundromat? What about, hey, Western Beef got a sale? You understand? So that was the premise behind that. However, we love what you're saying now. That's why it's morphed into now the Future Fathers Club, and we're going to talk a little about the mentorship, the Future Fathers Club. They got to see that. You're going to see these stinky diapers, huh? And you're going to see all these bottles. It's not like you see on TV. And the more they see it, the more they say, you know, Coach, I'm good. I'm not trying to have any kids right now. Thank you.
So Raheem, how does that play out in your program?
Yeah, I just want to say that's giving me a lot to think about, because during this time, if it wasn't for like a few of my homies, you know, that we connected about fatherhood, in addition to the work that we're doing, it helped a lot, you know, like, you know, because you have to feel like, yo, I'm not in this by myself. I'm having the same challenges. I'm trying to get on this Zoom with my kid. Like, how you feel about it? And it's great. And you know, and these type of conversations are going on in the classroom as well. You know, when you have guys that are, you know, everyone are dealing with similar things, and it's very helpful just to like, yo, I hear you, you know, to feel heard. Sometimes as a father, you don't always feel heard. So to really just have the opportunity to just kick it and really just, hey, you know, what do you think about this? You know, what are your thoughts? You know, I'm having some challenges with the mother of my child. What do you think? You know, it's great to just bounce ideas. And sometimes we don't always have that type of, you know, thing available to us, but obviously there are a lot of programs that provide that space, which is incredibly important. I found it incredibly important and eye-opening, especially during COVID time. A lot of different things emerged, and it was really helpful just to have that space and that ear, you know, for our guys and for me as well.
So once again, with this group, I want to start talking about where do we need to go with the field of fatherhood. You know, we're right here. we have opportunity to make a lot of changes. COVID made us do this. And what are some of the next steps in fatherhood that we should be looking to educate ourselves and getting ready, prepare for? Anybody?
But I could put a plug. Sorry, go ahead. Let me put a quick plug in, and then of course whatever the team says. However, COVID is still here.
Yes.
COVID is still devastating us. We are in fear. We don't know what the fall has in store for us, and we've the violence. All of us see this now. This is a result thereof of us being cooped up for so long, arguing over Facebook, arguing over Instagram. As soon as we got onto the free, everybody went at it. However, we have some more storms ahead. So right now, if the fatherhood programs, and I love Melvin already said they're doing theirs. Every man needs a shot. I love that. I can't wait till we partner with that. But the bottom line, and the call has been out throughout the world, and in New York in particular, we got to get a hold of this COVID by fall. How are we going to address that as far as the fathers and the men? Because we seem to be the ones that are most lagging behind. When all the statistics come out and the research, they're saying who's not getting their shots, who's not getting vaccinated. It's the same ones who didn't want to wear a mask. It's the same ones who didn't want to safe distance. It's the same ones who thought it was a hoax are now the same ones that are not trying to get vaccinated, and it's stifling everything that we do.
So for this group, let me ask another question for this group. Then let me say, with September on the rise, September's coming, and we already been told that school is going to be open come September.
Right.
What's the game plan, guys?
You got two boys. I'll let you start.
Yeah, man. Like, listen, my kids were doing the whole dual, right? They were doing the blended, and they were masked up. You know, it was crazy. In the school, they were probably actually the best suited to handle the situation because they had more structures in place and they had the capacity to institute the behaviors that the kids needed to follow because they're already used to being in school and following the instructions, right? So reality is the kids are going to be best off if they're going back to school. What we need to do is support those teachers and support the school as fathers specifically, because I think a lot of times the moms go to the school and they raise the fuss. But we as fathers showing up to the schools and just being like, one, hey, we want to make sure that our kids are being cared for the way they're supposed to, but also reiterating. I think there's always something to be said that basing the father's voice to our kids has a different impact. I don't care what nobody tells me, man. Like, you tell them, their mama will say something to them and they just be like, yeah, mom, yeah, mom. Their dad say something all of a sudden, they're just like, oh, chill. So me talking to my sons regularly and saying, hey, understand what's going on with COVID from a full discussion. Don't baby talk them, don't underplay it. Let them understand that, hey, if you don't take care of yourself, you're going to end up in a place where you may be at risk. And that's teaching them for later on how they need to, think in that way as well. But let them go back to school, man. Let them go back to school, educate them on how they need to exist in the world. Because I'm going to tell you like this COVID thing became problematic because we already had poor hygiene. We already had poor practices. I watched it. I work in the gym for years, and I watched people leave the bathroom without washing their hands. Nasties. You know what I'm saying? So the reality, right? I used to watch them walk out after they came out the stall and just look at the sink and keep pushing. And I'm like, see, no, we can't do that. So we got to educate our kids on those practices, man. That's all it is.
That's true. I agree. You know what we've said too, and we really have this campaign. We've been doing this campaign trying to get 10 million fathers vaccinated. So let's be clear on why we're saying fathers, you have to get vaccinated because you still are at risk. Our children, the studies are still out there. Their children, particularly the older children, they might be a carrier. We don't know yet. They could have got it in the school some kind of way. The signs won't come out in them. They don't even know. We don't get them COVID tested. And then you with the coconut head, I'm good. I'm not. But you have diabetes, or you have asthma, or you are obese, or just like Coach said, you have nasty habits. And next thing you know, you get sick, right? So you're thinking more than just yourself. That's why we're really telling fathers, you got to get vaccinated because you are the ones that are still susceptible. You are still the ones that are being hunted. So, everybody is going to be on everybody's lips, just like Scott said. It's coming in September. And a lot of the kids, they missed a year and a half of school. They just did the report. They don't even know how many kids didn't even chime into class at all. So, You know, they didn't go to school. Junior high and high school, I ain't go. Come on, man. So we when they go back to school, they're gonna feel some kind of way.
So, Coach, real quickly, I know we talked a little bit. Your campaign for Dad Take a Child to School Day with vaccine. Talk to me a little quickly about that before we gotta get ready to wrap up this section and go to our next section. Go ahead.
Sounds good. All right, guys. So here we go. So all of us know Dad's Take Your Child to School Day. That's been going on now, I believe, at 13th, 14th year. It's on again this year. Last year was fantastic, even though we didn't have the in-class sessions. The Zoom meetings and just us pulling together really put us on another level. This year we will be back in the schools, but it's been proposed to us that can we once again kill a whole block of birds, not one bird, a whole flock of birds with one little pebble. And that was with the vaccines, if nothing else. Possibly we work with the Department of Health. They're ready for us to call tomorrow that at selected schools, those who truly want to participate, we could at least do COVID testing. You see, at least on that day, when the fathers go in, you could at least find your status. You know, later that day, not right then, but later 24 hours, you're gonna get the text like everybody else, whether you are positive or negative. If you are negative, then we also want you to, hey, let's contact us so we can make sure you get vaccinated. A lot of times when fathers reach out to each other, it's gonna be a little work on our part. Then say, hey man, we understand this and that. You got to get vaccinated. Join us. We're going to have a big meeting. We're going to have an event, vaccinated fathers only. Sorry. And they're going to be there. We're also working on that day on selected hubs, particularly high schools, to see if we can't get some vaccination sites, because the high school kids can get vaccinated. That's a tough crowd, that young adult crowd. And we figured that the fathers and the kids, no better group than the father and the child to get vaccinated together that day. And everybody else can see it. You're probably 3 or 4.
And thank you, panelists. Now, I hope all you panelists hang in there because we have another set of panelists that we're getting ready to bring on to talk a little bit more. We just ask you to mute your mic, or you can turn your camera off, because we're getting ready to bring in another group of panelists that we're celebrating the work of fatherhood. So at this time, I want to open up the mic. Matt, are you there? Matt, you there?
I'm here.
Hey, Matt. How you doing, Matt?
I'm good. How are you
Tell me a
doing?
little about your program, what you're doing, and let the people know what you're doing with the Fathers Group.
First, thank you, Scott, for inviting me on. It's an honor to be here. I've been listening. It's really an honor to be here with all of you. I helped to start NYC Dads Group. It'll be 13 years ago this year. We are doing the same thing you guys are trying to do. We're trying to bring dads together in real life. We've created meetups. Sometimes it's just dads and kids hanging out in the park. Sometimes it's a Broadway show with our kids, and everything in between. And really, we want to be that peer support for dads. We don't frame ourselves as a support group. We don't put out a call to say, let's sit down and talk about fatherhood. But of course, as you're standing on the playground, that's exactly what's happening. We're talking about fatherhood, and same thing. See, your kid is having blueberries for lunch. How did you get him to eat blueberries? See, you've got diaper bag. What do you carry around with you in the diaper bag? What kind of stroller is that? What kind of preschool is your kid going to? So it's really about creating a community for dads and letting the magic happen from there. We've got go ahead.
So real quickly, because you have a really interesting story to me of how you got started and how you've grown this to be an international group right now. Not just New York City, it's international.
International in the narrowest sense of the word. We do have one group in Canada, but what we did, we started in New York City, and we kind of thought guys around the country would see what we were doing and follow in our footsteps, and they didn't exactly. So we had some guys first in Chicago and Los Angeles ask for some advice, and instead of giving advice, we said, we'll invest in this group with you together and figure out how to make this model work in Chicago and Los Angeles. And you're going to be the team on the ground doing it, and we're going to give you as much support as we can. And 41 cities later, over the last 6-7 years, we've got groups trying to do this. It's been tough through COVID. trying to bring people together in real life, or an organization trying to bring people together in real life is tough, as you all know, but we've done virtual, and we're trying to kind of give everybody some leeway. It's really tough on the organizers too, to try to not only take care of themselves, their own families, but to take care of their groups as well has been tough. But we're coming out of it, and we're going to come back even stronger after all of this.
Okay, Matt, let me bring in one of the other guests that we have right now. And I'm going to go way upstate New York to Brother Reggie Cox. Reggie, how you doing, my brother?
Man, it's a pleasure to be invited. I appreciate that. I'm looking at all these champions on the table here, man, and in the room. It's so much a wealth of knowledge and information and expertise, but we're excited to be amongst you all today, and we're doing well. As the guy was just talking in the last group about, I think it was Coach, about, being vaccinated. I just came out of the hospital about a month ago, and 6 days we were in there with the COVID and the pneumonia. And so we're blessed to be off the oxygen just last Friday. And so I've been humbled to the max. And I was telling my wife, I said, one of the things that we're going to be doing is doing what Coach was saying, is about making sure that, we go out and do what we need to do to get vaccinated and to be protective, so that we don't affect the people in our spheres of influence. We have great influence as the men that we speak to, and you guys know this already. And so we really connect with other people on such a mass that we have to be careful in how we engage if we're not engaging effectively. And so, yeah, man, we're doing well. You wanted me to share a little bit about the fatherhood connection, or?
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you. Go ahead.
So the fatherhood connection has been around now for, we started off with the fathers group, and I was working a part-time job through a resource center. And I realized that we weren't really meeting the mass. And so what I did, I started my own business in 2010. And in 2010, we began to, here in Rochester, New York, we began to go to the Department of Social Services real quickly. I'm going to try and speed this up. I know other people are on. And they weren't ready for us. And we were basically a 13-week men's parenting and personal development group. And so when they didn't receive us, we went to other counties, in surrounding counties, in Livingston and Genesee County. And so we're currently in 8 counties, but they enjoyed it. They were welcoming the work that we do with fathers, because there was nothing like that. And after running the programs there, then I came back to Rochester, Monroe County, where I live, and they said, Reggie, look, we don't want to do a contract with you as a consultant for 13 weeks. We want to actually hire you, and you run your program through the Department of Social Services. And so we felt like a door had been opened for us and given us access to reach those guys through CPS, family court, judges mandate guys to our groups, probation, and all the stakeholders in the community. And since then, we just kind of branched out into Region 1, Region 2, and Region 3. And so we're excited about the work that we're doing, working with fathers. And there's so much yet to learn from me. Now we're trying to connect. We just finishing up now a 3 pilot county situation with the Department of State. And we was in Cattaraugus, Steuben, and Allegheny County. And so we're finishing up, and we're training the trainer, and we're, releasing other guys to do the same type of work. I always say that if your vision is only as big as where you can handle it, then your vision is too small. And so now we're branching out, and I guess somebody else got the whiff of it through the state. And so they begin to talk about, let's do a New York State thing. I'm like, yeah, that's been the vision, right, Scott? Man, I'm like, yo, man, it's been a long time coming. Well, and so so they're now looking at hopefully finalizing a little small contract. It's not small, but it's big. I mean, it's in between. And we're looking to do it across the state, where we're going to connect with at least in each of the 10 regions. I didn't even know it was 10 regions in New York State, but in each region to have a champion where we can basically run and collaborate and have a statewide conference and do some work and try to establish other fatherhood programming, and to develop some type of mentoring and working with other fathers, connect with the stakeholders, especially the Department of Social Services and the community action agencies, which are in each of the regions. And so we're excited about that. This is an opportunity. We believe that we can really enlarge our territory and to be more effective and cause other men to raise up, man. We want to get some of our younger men raised up. We also do a youth group, ages 13 to 21. And a lot of these kids come from residential services and, in foster care, et cetera, and not having a father figure or a model or a progenitor in their path, man, they're really raised up in the system. And so we're trying to catch them even younger so that we can deal with some of the prevention instead of just intervention. But yeah, that's kind of what we're doing, and we're excited about it. I'm really glad to come in contact with all of you great men and what you're doing and hearing some of the things that you're doing. And I always believe that iron sharpens iron. And so I just want to kind of, bathe on some of the expertise that's in the room here and just enlarge to what I'm already doing. So thanks, God, for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Reggie. And with that said, because I'm going to bring on my next heavy hitter who is connecting dads all around through his network, Derek Phillips. Talk about Real Dads Network, Derek, and your long, I think it was almost 2 weeks worth of fatherhood events you did for like 2 weeks. How you doing, Derek?
Hey, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Just great to be here with everybody. This is always great when we could all come together and just really share what we're doing and really create that network. Because one of the challenges that we have is that I always have this thing, I say, with all the technology that we have, we're probably more disconnected now than at any other point in time in our history. So it's important that we come together and that we share resources, that we share the work that we're doing. So this is great, Scott, that you're doing. Continue to keep it up. And, we definitely want to support everything that you're doing in regards to the state with fatherhood. So in regards to just Real Dads Network is just an organization that has been around since 2004. It was the outgrowth of a documentary that I did that was called Real Dads, Black Men on Fatherhood, that had a commentary by the late, great Ozzie Davis in 2000. As a result of Real Dads documentary, we did Real Dads Network. And then since 2008, we have a thing called Real Dads Week. For a whole week, we celebrate fathers for a whole week. We've been doing it since 2008. We've given away over 275 awards to dads. We also do a daddy-daughter dance. We influence Chicago to do a daddy-daughter dance. We influence Philadelphia to do a daddy-daughter dance, Virginia to do a daddy-daughter dance. We also do a thing called Real Dads Club, where we're meeting once a month, where it's dads just come sharing their stories. Since COVID, with everybody, that came to an end, but that also worked out for us because as a result of COVID, we started doing our clubs, virtual. And we've been meeting every Thursday since last March. We have not missed one Thursday since last March.
Wow.
And we have dads now from around the country. And that has been a platform where men could just come into that platform. We just talk about all topics. We bring in experts. We've talked about anxiety, stress, depression. So we bring in experts that's talking about that. We've talked about health and wellness. We're bringing experts to talk about that. So the most powerful thing about that club is that it's men being, vulnerable, but also talking about the importance of being vulnerable and that it's a form of strength and not a form of weakness. Because sometimes when we talk about sharing what's going on with each other, a lot of people don't like to share because we've been socialized to believe that we have to be men, and part of being man is being strong and that, you have to do everything. But one of the things that we're really focused on in the group is we talk a lot about just self-care. So if you really want to be there for your family and you really want to call yourself a man and be that provider, you have to take care of yourself. And as men, we're always conditioned to take care of everybody else. We do, for the wife, for the kids, the relatives, extended family, we take care of everybody. But the first thing is that you have to take care of yourself. So if you really want to uplift your family, you must maintain yourself, because if you're not here, then who's going to be there for your family? So we talk about the importance of just, and getting checkups, making sure that you meditating, whatever programs that you have to really self-reflect on some of the things that's going on with you. I mean, when you go to the airplane, they say, what, put your mask on first. So you have to take care of yourself first. So we really talk about, focus on that. We just finished, again, I'm jumping all over, but we did the Real Dads Week. We also did a fatherhood exhibit. And it's actually on our website. So there's a exhibit that's on the website. You can go to the website, realdadsnetwork.org, to watch the website. We also participated in Real Dads Vote, because one of the things that we talk about in terms of fathers is that you can't just talk about being involved in just your family, but you have to be civically engaged. You have to vote, because if you're voting, what you're going to do is you're going to model that behavior for your child. So in voting in regards to fatherhood, in order to change some of the things that's happening in terms of the fatherhood space, there are policies. Everything that we deal with revolves around policies. So if you're not voting, you're not changing any policies. So we have to, so it's important that we vote. And the last thing, we also have a Real Dads book club where we meet once a month. We tell dads, like, if you want to, you can't tell your child to read if you don't read. So you have to model the behavior you want. So one of the dads came back and said, my daughter's like, Dad, I never saw you reading a book before. Because you know what? A lot of our kids don't see us reading. What we do as fathers is that we'll sit up there and we'll read the book to them, first, second grade books, we're reading the books to them, but we don't really engage in intellectual conversations by reading the book and discussing it. So model the behavior that you want. So what we try to do at the Real Dads Club, Real Dads Network, is that we don't just talk about it, do it. Let your actions speak for you. Model the behavior that you want. I know I said a lot in a short period of time, but
hold on, Derek, don't leave us yet, but because we're gonna bring in another heavy hitter from White Plains, New York. This is one of my idols. I love this guy. He's from my hometown in White Plains, where I grew up. I know y'all all think I'm from the city. I'm not a city. I'm a Westchester cat from White Plains, New York, the Greenberg, right? And I'm going to introduce my partner, Frank Williams. Hey, Frank.
Hey, Scott, and good evening, my brethren, and congratulations on the work that you're doing. You guys are the salt of the earth and you're the light of the earth, and we applaud you for what you're pouring into our community, changing lives of our children and raising our families. So I give you all props for what you're doing. I want to say, Scott, I'm excited. We have a program called Grandpas United. We not only have a fatherhood program, we have a global Grandpas United program, and we were on part of a 3-day conference talking about Grandpas United. We have 70 grandfathers. We call them grandpas, and we've been honored. We just got a Generations United Award. We got an Encore Award. We've been written up in magazines and publications. In fact, Scott, I don't know if you saw the article. You saw the link I sent to you. We were written up in the Journal News over the last couple of days, and the Westchester magazine is coming out with an article on us. We have 70 grand. You know what happened? What started with that? Maybe 3 years ago, a friend of mine, he had 2 grandkids, and then my daughter had a son. So we said, wow, we should start a grandpa program. And you think about it, many of these men are retiring from their careers, from business, from government and law. What do? Not everybody goes to a country club or play golf. What do they do with their skills and talents? So we started out with eight grandpas, and now we have 70. They come from all incomes, from all races, from all backgrounds, and we do Grandpas Go to School. We have talent hunts. We work with young people in the court system, in the juvenile justice system. We just had a civic engagement award. We gave out awards, scholarships to young people who have been involved with community service. In February, we had a grandpa virtual trip to the Hall of Fame. We had Allen Houston and his dad, Wade. We do a program called, we invite sporting figures, everything from NBA players to NFL players to share with us their life experience with their grandpas. And Wade Houston shared the hiccups, the hills and valleys, being the first African-American Black coach in the SEC. And he talked about his story. And, we celebrated that for Black History Month. So our grandpas are involved in mentoring and leadership. They're involved with young people who are coming out of the juvenile justice system. And they must be doing 12, 15 different things, and they're very active. We do a thing called Coffee with Grandpas. Once a month, we have a speaker who's talking about health and well-being and nutrition and lifestyle. And so we're just excited because of the national recognition that we've got. In fact, what we're looking to is to replicate our grandpa program throughout the state and throughout the country. So we're working on that as well. We also have a fatherhood initiative. Last week we had a table talk series that dealt with two issues. One was on foster parents in the Black community. As you all know, more and more of our young people are in the foster care system. They look like us. They come from our homes, but they're hardly Black foster fathers involved. So we did a workshop on that. It was awesome. And some of the foster fathers talked about their experience being foster parents. And we're going to continue to put a face on that because it's so needed. So many of our children are in the foster care, child care system, and we as fathers and families, we need to come to their rescue. And then we had a presentation. We just released a PSA on the COVID. We all know that in terms of the COVID and our community, we have a little bit of a hesitancy about getting the COVID. So we had a presentation on COVID and young boys of color and on fathers, and we released a PSA. We've done everything from Fatherhood Olympics to Father-Daughter Dance. We have an annual Fatherhood Conference. We do Fatherhood Olympics. Our Dad Take Your Child to School Day program, it attracts over 2,000 fathers to go to school with their kids. So we just have a series of events around trying to strengthen our fathers, trying to strengthen our families, and trying to make sure that people know that not all fathers are falling by the wayside. We want to put a face on fathers who are doing the right thing. When we look at the media, the 6 o'clock news, the 7 o'clock news, the 10 o'clock news, we see all of the hurt, the pain that speaks to our community. And we're trying to change the narrative by saying that not all fathers are falling down or wasting their life. And Scott has been a part of our efforts, our initiatives, and we just believe that working together, when we all work together as a collective, we can change the perspective, the outlook, the paradigm, the narrative. When people see us, they don't see us as thugs or hoodlums. So we have been doing this work for years, and we will continue to do so because it's needed, it's important. I'll tell you, we have a program with our grandpas. It's called Grandpa Goes to School. And we have all of these grandfathers working with you, and we identify, we want kids who don't have a father or father figure. And we go into one of the schools every other week to mentor these young, and it's just so beautiful to see these young people connect with us. And, you know, they don't have a father or father figure. And so what we're trying to do is stand in the gap and let them know that we care. So that's a little bit about what we're doing. We thank you. We thank Scott for his efforts and involvement with us. And we're just trying to, you know, let people know that we care about our community.
Thank you, Frank. And this, I should have started off now. This section that we're talking about right now is about networking and how to get fathers together and how do you all do that and coming together. You all are doing outstanding work. We're bringing large numbers of father and father figures together. How do you do it? How do you have the time to do it? Like Matt, how do you get 41 cities to follow your lead? I can't get 2 kids sometime to follow me.
I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. We're trying to get 41 cities to follow our lead. We've always kind of tried to have New York City be the example for the possibilities of what a dad's group can be. So most of the time it's things just getting dads together, organizing the opportunity to meet in a park, and some dads will show up. And we don't need 50 dads to show up. We need 3 or 4 dads to show up, and there's our group. And I think what we do to try to increase the number of people joining our group and coming out is be loud about it. We post it on social media. We're showing the world what it looks like for a group of dads to come together and hang out with our kids on a playground or be at a museum. One of our first meetups 13 years ago was at the Whitney Museum, 4 or 5 of us with our babies and our carriers. And we sat down to take a break, and it was as if we were one of the exhibits at the museum. The people coming up to us, 4 dads together with their babies was so unheard of. And I don't know that it would be that different today if we were at the Whitney Museum. So we're really trying to show the world what it looks like to be active and engaged dads, and show what it looks like to be a group of dads, and we found other guys across the country wanted to do that as well. So it's setting the example in New York, and then also learning from these guys around the country. The dads group in Anchorage, Alaska looks a lot different than the dads group in Los Angeles, looks a lot different than the dads group in Atlanta. So we want to kind of set the foundation for the guys. Here are the tools, but the guys on the ground need to really create the community for the group of dads they have.
Anybody else have a suggestion how you all pull your networks together?
I'll say as well, as Matt was saying, a lot of it is just, planning the activities as well, because a lot of times what happens is that when it comes to fathers, there aren't a lot of activities for dads. We always talk about things for moms. So, and everybody has mothers on their mind, but they don't think about dads. So when you plan those activities, what you find out is like, wow, you have a lot of fathers. They're like, I'm looking for something to do. I would love to do this. I would love to go to a dance. I would love to go to the museum. I would love to go to a hike. So when you plan those activities, what you find is that dads will come out because it's stuff that they sort of do anyway on their own.
Yeah, they do.
Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah.
Jump in there. How do you get involved?
Well, yeah, I'm just really dittoing what's being said. Again, to me, one of the major things, and I think one of you all already said it, is vulnerability and transparency. And anytime a man is able to be vulnerable and transparent, it is the essence of engagement. We engage so well when we know that somebody else can tell our narrative. And when you speak something that relates to other guys that they've been through, that we're not the big I, little you type of thing, and that, I got it going on and you don't, and we can best be a team of men walking in and discovering the best version of ourselves is second to none. And so you can find that in the jails, you can find that in the dealing with the people in DSS. You can find that almost in every place. The faith base, even in the churches, we're not talking about our issues in the ways that we're talking about it when we come together. And so knowing that you're not alone in your struggle, you're not alone. So we affirm, approve, and celebrate. Affirm, approve, and celebrate. And everywhere we go, that's what we do. And when you do that, you make connections, man, like never before. And so I call it a treasure hunter. We are treasure hunters. We know that there's some treasure on the inside. We just need the right environment to foster the development. And I believe that that's what you guys are already doing.
Yeah, and if I can weigh in, I think the issue is we have to not be afraid to fail. In life, you're going to have some hills and valleys. You're going to make you're going to stumble, but we get back on our feet. And it's not the number of fathers, it's the quality of the program. It really is. And sometimes we want to have these large numbers of fathers, but just like Matt said, if you have a handful of fathers who come together and they have a common interest to do some good work, that's really what our purpose should be. And you're right, iron sharpens iron. You get a few guys come together. We started out with our fatherhood program and with our grandpa's program with just a handful of people. And people saw what we were doing and they got on the bandwagon. And people will engage and they will become a part of when they see authenticity, when they see that you're genuine and authentic, they'll get involved because it's good for your families, it's good for the community, and people will celebrate good work and they will want to join in.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think a lot of times, and it's Frank, and to add to what you're saying, it's not about the numbers, it's about the impact.
Right.
So, and you have a small group that can have a huge impact. You can have a large group that doesn't have any impact. So, and that's what it's really about, the impact and the quality of the programs that we are designing to bring them in and to have the impact that we're looking to have.
I'll just say this, when we first started our Dad Take Your Child to School Day program in White Plains, we had less than 100 people. And we looked around and said, oh, that's all? But now, it is something really special. Think, 2,000, just here in White Plains, 2,000 fathers of all races, of all coming to school. And now these men are involved with the PTA. They have their PTAs as a result. That's the impact that you can have. But you start where you are, you meet people at their point of need, and then it will jump off.
I'll echo that. It's all about patience, and dads are a tough nut to crack. So we always say it takes 4 or 5 touch points before we actually get a guy to come out. They might join, maybe 4 or 5 touch points to join our group, and then 4 or 5 more to actually come out to a meetup. And you really do have to be patient. And all the time we have guys say, "Oh, I've been watching you for 2 years, and this is the first meetup," or this is the first time I've been out without my kid in 5 years. And it's like, wow, dude, we've been here for a long time, and glad you're out here, and hope you'll come out again.
Got it.
Wow. So that narrative, go ahead, Coach.
For those, since the beginning, I'm so excited to hear these stories. When we first started the fatherhood program, there was 2 of us. And that's because it was me and my boy who needed help. And I think one of our jewels is that the majority of us, everybody on this panel, no doubt, this is personal. You see, that's why we can reach so many. That's why we're reaching more and more. Because, I'm going to these meetings because I needed help with my father. And I needed help with my son. And they understand that. They feel that openness, as we said. However, this is a game of life. This is not overnight. As Matt just said, if we just plant a seed that one time, they just came one time just to get a little motivation, just to say, hey, I'm somebody is like me. So we planted that seed. So we might not have the numbers all the time, but with the new technology, forums such as this, where we can promote all the things that you all just said today, you already know I'm going to tell the world. I can't wait. And that's how we're going to spread it. One family, one voice, one team. So we're getting there. We're getting there. We're still fresh and new.
Thank you for this group. I want y'all to hold on, stay on, because we got some more people coming in the barbershop right now, and we're going to bring in our 3rd group of panelists into the barbershop. Jerry, I'm going to let you start off with your guests as we bring, because this panel group is going to be talking about policy and structure in the field of fatherhood, because we got some heavy hitters coming in now. So go ahead, Jerry, introduce your first guest.
Not a problem, I guess. So my first guest right now is Sandler Francois. I had a great work he was actually the first Black business owner that I had ever met, like growing up, right? And I'm saying this now, we're actually close in age. But when I was going into public service, he was like, I'm just going to start my own thing. And I saw him take care of his family. Right now, he's the CEO of Premier Paralegal, which really oversees all things legal with a concentration on divorce for men and what that looks like to help them navigate all legal issues across that. So it's definitely a pleasure to bring in someone who I get to call friend, Sandler Francois.
Thank you so much. And not only to you, Jerry, but if you guys ever saw the movie, then you're probably familiar with the movie title League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I didn't see it. I thought it was probably gonna be a corny movie, but I like the title. And whenever I get to use that title, I like to be honest about it. So I feel like that's what I'm engaged in right now, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. So greetings to all of you. Scott, great job. All you brothers are very insightful. I'm very excited about what you guys are doing, because what I tend to get, you all probably study stats, and when it comes to divorce, the stats show that 90% of divorces are initiated by women. Somehow, in my small legal service, I tend to get, in my client base, at least 50% of divorces are by women, and that leaves the other 50% to be done by men. And I was able to see, by way of starting Premier, that there's a huge hole, and a lot of men in their education in terms of their rights. Because for the most part, a lot of men that we know, maybe not us, because again, we're the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, a lot of men walk into the courtroom automatically in this position, head held down, and pretty much in a submissive position because they feel like the war is already lost. And so what I discovered, a lot of my calling was rooted in inspiring and educating men. And sort of, we have 2 coaches, but I found myself in a coaching role as in terms of how to explain to men what they're about to go through, because it's not only the black and white of the legality, but it's also about everything that happens before court and after court, and how you carry yourself, how you conduct yourself, and the post-divorce process. And we'll get into that tonight, because I'm sure, Jerry, you have a lot of questions and the other men need to speak to.
Definitely appreciate that. I want to pass it back to Scott. I know we got, like you said, we got a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen at the barbershop. Let's do it.
So my next guest up is my brother. He works with the New York Knicks. doing extraordinary things in New York Knicks. But man, he's a heavy brother. He got a lot of conversation. He was a dad who raised his daughter through college by himself. This is an awesome brother. Come on, Tabiti. Where's Tabiti Boom? Let me see Tabiti. Tabiti, are you there?
I think we got some technical difficulties with Tabiti and his video, so we may have to hold him for the very end when we circle back around.
Okay, so we're gonna circle back around. So my next brother from across the country, by way of Arizona, coming in long and hard and heavy. I know he's gonna ask me, did I pray us in? I'm already convinced I didn't pray us in today. So, and he's gonna embarrass me a little bit, but this is my brother, James Rodriguez. I love you, James. Come on, brother James Rodriguez.
Hey, thank you, man. I can't see you that well. I got a sty in my eye, so I'm trying to like keep my eye open. But I'm glad to be here. It's glad to see Ron. Ron, I need to go to Harlem, go get my award from being a Bronxite recipient 3 years ago. So it's good to see all of you and looking forward to this conversation together.
So we had some. So next time, I'm gonna hold your guys because these are really big guys. These guys, they talk internationally all the time. We don't get to see them on the barbershop. So we're great to have them. So next is my honor, my privilege. I don't know how much to say. I need a drum roll almost. This is the one and only Dr. Ronald Mincy. How you doing, Dr. Ronald Mincy?
Hey, Scott, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you brothers for all the work that you do. It's so exciting for me to hear about the various things that are going on the ground. I would just say briefly, I'm involved in a couple of activities that I think could affect all of our work. One is the Biden family plan includes a childless earned income tax credit that would lift the amount of income that childless workers receive from the earned income tax credit, which is the largest anti-poverty program we have, from about $500 to over $1,200. And there's a hope that this will be expanded into a permanent part of the tax code. So I'm working with advocates who are working with legislators to try to help people understand that a lot of, quote, childless workers are actually non-resident fathers, and that how this piece of major anti-poverty legislation would affect them, which would provide a source of income for many of the men that you are serving. I think the other thing that I'm engaged in that affects the way our work is that this whole conversation about the unfortunate, and that's not an adequate word, experience of George Floyd has created something of a lightning rod through the policy community. And finally, many of the things that many of us have been talking about for 30, 40, 50 years about the impacts of structural racism on men of color are surfacing inside the policy community. And the National Institute of Minority Health has issued an RFP in order to expose and to deal with the impacts of structural racism on underserved communities, particularly African-American communities. My own work relates to the structural racism that is built into the cake of child support enforcement and how it affects men of color. And there is also a new grant maker who is interested in this area. So I'm actually trying to start something like a 5-site demonstration project about how community-based responsible fatherhood programs could help to work with child support enforcement agencies to make to reduce the number of default orders, to move the ball around the right sizing of child support orders, and to decrease the number of child support cases that have uncollectible arrears. All of these three problems disproportionately affect Black men. So, but thank you for your work. And James, I apologize I wasn't able to actually participate in your conference. All the time you were planning. My brother was dying. He passed away yesterday. And so I apologize that I wasn't able to connect with you, but our work continues, our work goes on. And Scott, thank you for inviting me.
I know out of order, Scott, but Ron, you don't have to apologize to me for anything. Family always comes first. We're all millionaires. We just spent all the money from the first dime we ever made to the last dollar that we'll make when we retire finally. But so your family needs you first and foremost. So I'm sorry
Dr.
about your
Rodriguez, Dr. Rodriguez, tell us a little about the Fatherhood Coalition, Father and Family Coalition of America.
Well, you know what? Actually, while we were on the call right now, if I knew that Sandler was here, I probably would have had this young man. We've been getting a lot of calls from a lot of Latino and Black fathers that get in custody of their children. And most of them are former gang members, or I don't even know how they got my phone number, but calling for help. This gentleman wants to leave California and just go to Utah because he feels like he'll be safe. And I just said, hey, sometimes you just got to dare to stand like Daniel. You got to be able to just stand. If you're not in a gang, you're trying to have a better life. That's on one element. We're doing some leadership development, but I'm very proud of our affiliates that we have throughout the US and internationally. And Ron is and always will be part of the major push for getting great faculty that comes to our national conference. You spoke at it, Scott, and we're going to be doing more and more on leadership development from different perspective, incorporating stuff from the military. Not going to have everyone at Fort Rodriguez doing push-ups or anything like that. Maybe Coach Lynn will out push-up me, but diamond push-ups, brother, all day, like special forces. But we're going to do more and more like that. We're going to partner with Region 2 Head Start September in Puerto Rico, and it's going to be dynamic, and we're doing more and more to help individuals get to that next level. And I think that that's where the next part of our legacy is, to help other people in their quest to become leaders in different fields of social work or this hybrid function of fatherhood fields. Because I don't know about what Ron or others who are doing this, but for 25 years, I'm really looking at where's the next national leadership coming from. When Ron decides to retire, I know, Scott, well, you a couple years older than me. So what happens on a national level, not just in a local level? It's hard enough on a local level. So what will happen on the next level? Who will be representations so that we can have conversation with people from the White House to the local assemblyman, to the state senator, to a US senator? And I think that has to be a deeper conversation beyond today, but collectively has to be a push in the next 18 months to have a good strategic plan around policy and impact from leaders like all of you and others around the United States, so that you don't get left behind, because it cycles out, and it's going to cycle again, because now there's a big void where there's no voice. And so hopefully that's something that we can all work together on starting today and going forward, not just working on practice or programs or grants. As soon as I heard Ron talking about grants for child support, I almost want to give him 5 directors, one from Alaska, a tribal nation, and others. But if I didn't know he was doing this, I couldn't help him out. Does that make sense, everybody? So I think that that's something that we want to continue doing and growing at a bigger pace at.
Wow, and that's huge. And I know definitely James and Dr. Mincy, you all have always probably tired of me always asking, what's the next step? Where should we be going? You know, we've been doing this thing called fatherhood for, I don't know, Ron, 20, 30 years now. And it seems like we're still on step 1. And Brother Sanders, how do we get to step 2, or what should we be working? And I love the idea that we have to start grooming the next leaders to come on. So we have to start having those conversations. And how do we get to have that conversation of grooming the next level to take over? And where should this movement of fatherhood should be going to? So Dr. Ron or Sanders or James, any of you 3, anybody, or Jerry, if you want to jump in, take a shot.
I was on mute. I'll jump in real quick. I think the first thing, and I love the way we had a couple of waves come in. The first one was basically community modeling of fatherhood so that other people can see. You see it in the NBA and different sports now, where fathers have their kids sitting on the podium with them and just showing, hey, you can be present in every atmosphere that I'm in. And the other way that really spoke about how do we network. In this thing, I really just see the ability, when we talk about what does that look like for next steps, right? It's really reinforcing. I really 100% believe fatherhood is trending, but fatherhood has always been vital and important, right? It's just creating the space for it to be seen. I see more fathers now with a strap, with a strap and a baby packed, and they're just walking on the street taking selfies. Like, yeah, I'm proud to do this. And so when we talk about reimagining fatherhood, I also really see reaffirming it. Like, no, you were doing a good job. You are doing a good job, and show everyone else that we can all do it collectively. And so from the different points that I'm hearing from Dr. Rodriguez to Sam Latif and Dr. Mincy, it's finding the different areas from even a legal area or a policy area to reaffirm and show, yeah, you have your rights too. You have a voice too, and you can stand in it. Like, you're not alone and you can stand in it. So I take that to say to make sure that almost close back, because like men don't talk about, hey, I'm going through a legal issue, I'm going through a family issue. No, open the door and let's talk about it and just do it together, because you're not alone. So I'm gonna take a step back, and I'm actually gonna pass it to whether it's I actually want to hear from Dr. Mincy, and then maybe Sam, if you could chime in, just your thoughts on just next steps for us. Like, how do we take reimagining to like, okay, now we're gonna do next level impact.
So thank you, Jerry. So a couple of things. Scott, I don't want us to be unduly pessimistic. Things that we used to talk about, 25 years ago, are now internalized in child support. In my area of this piece are internalized in child support enforcement, and now they're trying to figure out how to make it happen. So we called it a lot of things. We called it, making a distinction between deadbeat and dead broke dads. Now the internal conversation is how to right-size child support orders. So this is an understanding that they have. Furthermore, the federal government is incenting them to do just that. So I don't accept the idea. In fact, it's just not true that we haven't made any progress in 25 years. We have. And we have so many people who were in the fatherhood field who are now inside of child support enforcement, in part doing the work that we used to do on our behalf. Okay, so that's one thing. I think the second thing is this idea of the transition to leadership. So last week and over the last several weeks, I've been meeting with a variety of people that I used to work with in the 1990s. They were my grantees when I was at Ford, but they are now grooming the next generation of fatherhood leaders. A guy who was a graduate student when we started the Fragile Families and Child Wellbeing Study is now a professor at the University of Chicago, but he has a student who has recently got his PhD, who is now leading a fatherhood organization in Chicago. So this transition to leadership is happening somewhat organically. I do think we need to call more attention to it and give these young brothers a platform so that they become known, etc. But it is happening. I think the third thing, I want to echo something that was said in the last panel, and that is about literacy and getting young fathers involved in literacy. So the thing I'm working on is when we now have studies that show that when child support orders are excessive and the arrears that fathers experience are high, fathers are experiencing mental health problems. And we have good evidence on this matter. And so, so the idea, both from the vantage point that child support will never collect them, and from the vantage point that excessive amount of child support may actually do harm, right, is persuading child support enforcement to try to figure out ways in which they can reduce the arrears that fathers owe in exchange for positive things that fathers do. For example, we had a conversation with the child support director in New York a couple of months ago about forgiving the arrears, some of the arrears of fathers who participate in a state sanctioned drug treatment program in New York, right? So for every month he participates, his child support order gets whacked, right? So a version of this ought to be about training fathers to work on their children's literacy. especially in early childhood, because it is now an accepted part, understanding in the neuroscience that when children are between 0 and 3 years old, they are like sponges, right? And the time to work on their literacy skills is then. But, and now we're engaging parents, mothers, resident fathers in this activity of increasing children's literacy skill, but we're not increasing the capacity of non-resident fathers to do that. And so I think that needs to be part of the game. But they need some special help in doing that. So when we got on the call, I set my grandson so he could say hi to you guys, but you were busy, so he bowed out, but he's 3 years old. And so I get a vision, an understanding of what it is to teach a 3-year-old how to read. My grandson lives in Kenya, and because of COVID, he's not been able to go to preschool. So he's behind in his literacy development. And so I'm working with him on that. I have the privilege of doing it, but then I get to understand something. I've learned from the people I work with on child development that you have to let children lead, right? You can persuade them to do stuff, but you got to do it there. You are the follower and they're the leader. And if you don't do that, there's static that will develop between you and the parent, the child and the parent, and then the child starts crying and it ends up being a disaster. So I'm trying to picture an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old non-resident father who doesn't interact with his child every day. So he doesn't have the same language skills. He doesn't recognize the child's clues because he's not daily involved in caring for the child. And so what happens when he's trying to teach that child to read, but the child wants to do something else? The father is ill-equipped to manage that, but that is where the potential for lowering his arrears, because he's engaged in the child's literacy, is greatest. And so I've been talking about this with Raheem, who got off, or who may be still on the line, thinking about how to train fathers, particularly young men who are having kids in their 0 to 3, when they're really, really ready to soak up literacy, how to train them to be patient and work with their children to understand that when they're teaching them to read from left to right or right to left, that those little dots on the page mean something. And when the child wants to do something else, how that involves not only their pre-literacy skills, but it also involves bonding. And so if you can't get the child to read in that moment, you can at least hold the child on your lap. My grandson likes to write. He comes in every day from preschool and he says lions. He wants to watch a video about lions. And so I can put away my reading stuff and then turn on lions, and then we interact around lions. And I teach him language around lions, and that is increasing his literacy skills. That's increasing his bonding. And as a consequence, we need to teach more young fathers how to do that, because it will not only increase the child's literacy skills, which increase the life course of the child, but it's also a mechanism to get the father's child support arrears dropped, because he's doing something to improve the child's well-being. And we have a head start, we have a healthy start mechanism into which we can fold that thing. And I think that's the policy wave that we're looking for way out into the, right out into the next decade after I retire.
I wanted to ask you something, Ron, just a perspective. This year, the state director from California asked us to, and this is not a shameless plug, but they went through one of our training programs, something that my brother Scott needs to complete or he doesn't get a credential. But it's been approved from the Council of Social Work Education. And most universities don't have structured coursework to expand the capacity of future professionals working with fathers. So they are also in child support. Now, Lawson County felt like the child support director went through a training, sat in it, had her team, said, I'm going to have the entire county, every piece that touches a non-custodial father, those professionals and the directors. So she has child welfare, she has TANF, obviously child support, and she has the county managers. And I think that that's where her position influencing the other positions that touch the lives through systems, and the systems become barriers primarily for men of color. And because she's doing that, she realizes we have to have a shift on how we work with fathers. But it's rare and in between, but I'm just using that as an example. And then she's bringing in the state director and the state director from Alaska, and they're saying, hey, wait, maybe what we need to do is have intensive training for our executive team how to work with fathers. And what can we do to do that? Because we know
I would wonder,
single parents.
This is great. Both Dr. James and Dr. Ron, I mean, this has inspired so many ideas, because and I'll speak to Scott first, because what all you men, and I'm realizing now just by the benefit of being on this call, is that this is truly a war. And I'm looking at men that have been involved in a war for so long. Well, a war is a series of mini battles, right? And some of you brothers have been on this for so long that you've won so many battles, and you're so far ahead that you don't realize all the people you've helped behind you, that you've cleared terrain for, if I'm making sense. So congratulations. What I'm looking at, Dr. Mincy, specifically, when you were speaking, you gave me so many ideas about how to attack the child support, one part of the child support issue. And that one thing I realized, if I had any advantage over a lot of men who are doing the great work that you're doing, I tend to get the men when they're in their most vulnerable state. So they listen. And a lot of their minds, I'm the only person that probably does listen to them. The child's mother's not listening to them. The judge isn't listening to them. You know, if there's an order of protection, the police definitely don't want to listen to them. You know, so what I realized, the blessing I was able to take advantage of, is the fact that they'll listen to me. And there are other vulnerable points too, you know, such as when you walk into the child support court, you know, perhaps for the sake of education, because they're lacking in education. They're high on emotion and low on education, you know. And so what we can do is similar to what the civil court does here in New York. Well, I assume most of us are in New York or familiar with New York. If you walk into the civil court, they have an office of the self-represented, or office of pro se. And what they do is, for anyone who walks in unrepresented, they have gifted clerks, attorneys, legal assistants who are very well versed in everything that's going to happen. And in landlord tenant court, you could probably make it, if I'm going to be funny, you can probably skip 6 months rent if you go listen to those people at that table, you know. So why not put those same sort of tables inside the family court? They tend to be there, and they're needed for mothers who are underserved with respect to their legal representation. But it tends to be something that when you go to the tables, correction, they're not only for mothers, they're for anyone, but who tends to gather around those tables are the mothers. And the husbands or the fathers are sitting there with their arms folded, again, with their chin in chest, because they feel like they've already lost. So that's one place where I can see that happening. Because what happens for the most part is the fact that we have to address this from two perspectives. One, speak to the man, build up that self-esteem, something that all of you men are doing. Build up that self-esteem, empower them, and show them that they truly have more power than they realize, as men, as fathers, you know, as people in society. You know, second to that, while you're attacking it from the policy angle, you know, something that can be done is start to do, like, I believe it was Brother Raheem, and all of you brothers who spoke, and Matt, Brother Matt, who also spoke to different aspects of, and Coach AD, all of you did, spoke to aspects of, whereas you incorporate your sons and your daughters into, you know, efforts. Because one thing I see that may be lacking in this great assembly and this great thinking is the fact that we don't hold our children responsible for picking up and receiving the baton, when after 30, 40 years of engaging in this kind of effort, you know, we let them go off and do whatever they do. There are other people that we can learn from that encourage their children to pick up where we left off. And I have a feeling a lot of the great work that's been done by people such as you has gotten lost because no one picked it up. Am I making sense? So with that said, when it comes specifically to the child support angle, it is a tough fight, because Dr. Mincy, you already know how tight that knot is in the child support system, in the family court system specifically, not just child support and visitation and custodial rights. You know, it seems like it's already written in advance, you know, but we know there are aspects, there are cracks that can be jumped through and widened with consistent effort.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And I think some of the work that you're doing on behalf of divorced fathers, there are dimensions of that can extend beyond the fathers who are divorced to fathers who are never married. And this whole idea of parenting time, right? It comes from the fact that if you're married and you get a divorce, when you split up, there are two things that are automatic: child support and custody. And now the policy dialogue is, should parenting time be an automatic dimension of fatherhood when the couple splits up, but they're unmarried in the first place? There's an ongoing dialogue about, at the point at which he becomes a father and responsible for the child support order, should there also be parenting time as a legal right? And so there are extensions of the work that you're doing on behalf of a broader population of fathers.
Great stuff. Great stuff. I don't want to dominate. If anyone else has some valuable coins, gold coins they want to throw into the bucket.
Well, what I want to do at this time, I want to open it up because you just talked about parenting time, and I want to bring in all the panelists at this time. So everybody, you can unmute, and I want to start with Derek Phillips because I know he's been working on this parenting time forever. So you want to speak to that real quickly, Derek?
Yeah, and like I said earlier, one of the things that we did also is just the Real Dads Vote, which is to get men civically engaged, because you have to vote because everything revolves around policy. So when you're not voting, then certain policies are going to be implemented that are going to affect you. So one of the things that we've been pushing for is a shared parenting bill. So shared parenting bill simply states that if a mother and father separate, provided there are no issues of abuse or domestic violence, that custody should start at 50-50. And there's only one state that has it at the moment, and that's Kentucky. So, and the other thing is, a lot of us are not even aware that the bill exists. Every state has that bill in the books. Every senator and assembly has that bill in the books in just about every state. But if we're not aware of that, if we're not changing public policy, then to me, that has to be the next step. You have to change public policy.
And I so far agree. And Scott, the thing that I've learned over the last 30 years is that we've had plenty of policy ideas, but we've not had a base to communicate those ideas to, and that would sort of create a local, all politics are local, a local base to push back the things that we are articulating through policy to their state legislature, et cetera, so that it would be a groundswell. So I agree with Derek that we have to build civic engagement, right, among fathers, so that while the policy wonks are thinking up stuff, there's an audience to receive it and then give it a community credibility, so that legislators have to pay attention. And that is an important part of the next step.
But I know one assemblyman in New York for sure who would probably really advance fatherhood initiatives. And I don't know all the assemblymen or all the state senators, but for sure, because he was on my founding board of directors, and that's Felix Ortiz out of Brooklyn. So who else other than Felix Ortiz do you know, assemblymen or and I'm not talking about a borough president, I'm talking about at the state, because the borough, as much as you may love and have connections with them, they cannot change state public acts. They cannot create a public act. They cannot do nothing, not even in New York City. It only has so much weight. You need to have some weight up in Albany. So who in Albany have you identified to have this conversation with? And I'm not talking about a state person. I'm talking no commissioners, none of those people who have got great responsibilities, but the only ones who can create law, the only ones, assembly, governor has to sign off on it, and the state senate. So who else can you start going to and say, hey, we want you to create something?
I've actually
Kentucky.
I've actually met with Senator Kevin Park, who actually sponsored the bill, the shared parenting bill in terms of New York State. I've actually met with over a dozen of senators and assembly people. So Kevin Parker laid out the plan for me. He says, these are the things that have to be done. You have to also, one, bring awareness. Because one of the problems that we have is that a lot of people are not aware of the bill. And then you also have to create some media attention around it and get, and start, getting attention and start talking about the bill. And you also have to build a coalition. And that coalition has to include not just fathers, but also have to include women as well, in terms of women groups who are also for shared parenting. So we've been in the process of developing that coalition, because in order for that to work, it has to be everybody on board. It's not just a father's thing. It's also, we've met with 5 different women groups who say, listen, we are for shared parenting because we understand shared parenting is not about fathers. It's about what's in the best interest of children, because the research says clearly children do better when both parents are actively involved.
Derek, I think that's good, and I definitely want to piggyback on such a great point that you gentlemen are making, because not only that, in inserting these ideas and prompting, or really encouraging our existing politicians to jump on board and to make something happen, but always to harken back to an earlier point, we have to start creating and grooming these people also. So that person who we're tapping on the shoulder, the Kevin Parkers, who I believe is a well-intentioned politician, and that's not easy to say about a lot of politicians, right? So while we're tapping Kevin Parker on the shoulder, he needs to be able to say, this group of men or these organizations that have this purpose have the ability to start grooming their own person also, that they'll practically pluck out of nowhere. And that maybe it hasn't been done much, but has been seen that you can groom a candidate from start to finish and make that person take the proper action.
I agree, because otherwise, and Ron knows this person, I love my mentor up from Chicago, Congressman Danny K. Davis. I've been to his home in Chicago. I've hung out with him, and he has been trying to pass the Julia Carson bill for well over a decade. Forever. He is one man doing it by himself. And the problem is, as much as we go in to help him, now he's on the Subways Mean Committee, which is a very powerful chairperson position. He doesn't have the power. So it's the person that you have to identify. And that's why even Assemblyman Ortiz is the second in leadership for the state of New York Assembly, but he's not number one. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So whoever it is, and I know Stephen Lynn and I, years ago, we did something at Lehman College. I don't even know how we did a forum that brought in 300,000 viewers. But the problem is, from my responsibility reflecting back, we just left it as a one-time experience, and we never manifested that 300,000 viewers to do something deeper. And the president from the Bronx Borough president was there, and we probably could have held his feet to the fire to do something. See, that's what I'm saying, that the next level has to engage more with policies, because when you can identify the people who are adversarial, like for me, I don't mind saying I'm very center liberal, so you can already figure out my political party affiliation, but I know I got to go to the other side, because the other side, if I don't get them on board, it's just not going to happen. And that's probably what could happen in New York. And I know that's hard, because you got a combination of city that can't get in public policy sometimes because of Hatch Act, but you all can from the community base and be the advocates and use the research that Dr. Mincy and others have to be the advocates in the city, the state of New York. And that's just my perspective going forward. That could be the next level, because New York there's no way that the state of Connecticut, the state of Ohio, the state of Illinois, the state of Hawaii all have state public acts that require fatherhood initiatives in all government bodies. And for New York not to have it, as well as California and the other states, but New York should not be so far behind in public policy when you got a plethora of and breadth of expertise, even here on this call. So that could be the next call. That could be the next call to action, is what I'm trying to suggest.
James, to your point, I've spoken to a lot of the assembly people and senators. One of the things that they tend to say, men don't vote.
That's true. Well,
and that's why we started the Real Dads Vote, because men don't vote. So here it is. When you're voting and you win, you have to, your constituents, you got to make sure you take care of your constituents. So if you're not voting and you're not, you don't have a block to hold them accountable, so they're not going to take you seriously, because they're going to feel, if I want to get elected, I have to, uphold my group. But we don't vote on the block, and we don't vote. That's why we have to get civically engaged. We have to vote. We have to understand that in order to change anything, you have to change policies, regardless of what, and that means voting. It comes back.
I want to jump in real quick. I think Derek
and it also means expanding your champion base. So like if I only want to have, because see, well, first of all, I never wanted Fathers and Families Coalition of America just to be in Arizona, but let's say I did, then I would never have met with colleagues in other states to think about how we could replicate, how we could collaborate, how we could work together. there'd be no way that I'd have a physical office in Puerto Rico in this moment. Does that make sense? Or a physical office in New Wales, Australia, that I've gone to once in 3 years. So you have to make the investment with other people that may, I don't agree with a place that we're going to do some work with their child support. I don't agree with the leaders' philosophy politically or who they voted for in the last general election, but I got to work with them. Does that make sense? So that we can make change. And I know of your works, Mr. Phillips, but I'm saying that if you could grow out a state coalition that's very powerful and very interconnected, and beyond the city, beyond where I grew up in the Bronx, or beyond Walt Simpkins in Schenectady, New York, who I love, he's a good guy. You know who the greatest, and this is back when Stephen and I were working, was like the Rotary Club, the businessmen. Those are the men that you need to try to get, and the women that you need to try to get, those business leaders, because guess what? They got their pulses, their fingers on the pulse of elected officials, probably more than we do.
I mean, I just wanted to jump in because you guys stirred up this amazing thought, starting with what you said, Derek, with men don't vote. I'd actually bring it down another level. Men don't necessarily even know how to advocate for themselves, right? And that stems from just, let's go mental health approach. One of the things that Scott and I, we had Barbershop talking about redefining masculinity. Because a lot of men don't even believe that they have a voice, right? You grow up in a culture where I'm just supposed to take it as it is. So whether it's court as relates with child support, whether it's whatever the situation is going on at home, I'm just supposed to swallow it and take it just as it is, right? And so, that's why gangs are so great. Well, they give a voice to the people who are voiceless, right? That's why certain areas we use like, that's bad, but why do they tend to run in that area? Because there's a voice for the voiceless, right? And so I'll forever say, as a mental health counselor, as well as ambassador, the biggest silent killer is the vulnerability of men and them not being able to express that. So all that to pivot back, the job that Matt is doing, that Philip and even Rashim is doing with creating these groups that can learn to advocate, learn to create a voice to actually do this thing called what we're talking about reimagining. Because until you know how to speak and show your voice and then stand firm on it, like I mentioned earlier, I'm looking at dads trending literally on the street right now with their child on their backpack walking to daycare. No, I'm doing this. I'm going to lead the PTA meeting. And the more men, fathers start to do that, the more voices become, the more that actually grows and goes into the political atmosphere. Even when we talk about divorces, that's like taboo language at church, which is one of the biggest advocacy groups for all types of policy, right? Most politicians go to the church and say, okay, I'll do this for you, or whatever the case is to make that work. No one talking about divorce, child support, anything like that in church, which is like one of the biggest voices, especially for Black and brown communities. So how do we tap into those areas? So I say all that to say, I love the conversation, which is to reinforce the one thing that I think all of this brings out is that fathers, men, you actually have a voice. Hear the experts, know the resources, take advantage, and know you're not alone.
Gentlemen, it's been my pleasure to be with you. My wife is trying to get me to go vote. So,
there you go. There you go.
I'm sitting there all this pontificating crap. Let me go take care of business. Thank you, Scott, for inviting me. I'm just so proud to be associated with all of you. Thank you for the work that you do. Let me go take care of business, and I look forward to my next opportunity to join. Take care.
Thanks, Dr. Mincy. And actually, we're actually maybe in on time today because I'm getting ready to wrap it up now. So last words, Dr. Mincy, just before you go, anything that we should be working on, a last minute quick thing. Oh, he jumped off. Okay.
Yeah, I think his wife called him off. We lost it.
Hey, when the wife says, let's move, we move.
8 minutes till the polls close. He needs to get out there.
Yeah. So, well, Matt, since you up, give us some last words from what you heard today. Anything that you want to add as we close out, since you're up.
It's really an honor, my honor, to be invited to this conversation. One thing I just wanted to echo as part of the last conversation is engaging women in this conversation, because I do think that women have a lot to gain by having a shared partner, married or not, in the life or not. There's so many reasons that women also want this to work, and I think this conversation it's always been very hard for me to take part in, because it's often led by people who have a chip on their shoulder, and it's very hard to bring people together when there's a lot of negativity and all the reasons for the negativity. But if we can find a way to focus on the positives of shared care and shared families and shared custody and all of this conversation for men and women, for mothers and fathers, I think we'll continue to move the conversation. I don't mean to simplify it at all, but I do want to echo that I think women can really be a valuable asset in this conversation.
And Matt, you're so correct, because we have some outstanding women in the field of fatherhood that I know of. Kimberly Dent out in Ohio, Lena Green, who's here in New York, Ava, who's out in Ohio doing some stuff. I can't think of the young ladies in Texas that she does some stuff in Texas. But there are really outstanding women in the field of fatherhood who really speak to that. And one thing that I just wanted to speak about, I know when I talk to child support, I always try to remind them about the situations of mothers who have forgiven fathers of their debts and how much that helped the family overall. Instead of keeping this father in debt that he can't see the child, he can't travel, he can't do so many different things, but giving that father a break to come back in to become a parent again, how much help and support mom can get if she just understands that process doing that. So if you're ever looking for some women to help you, Matt, let me know. I can put you to some great women who can speak on behalf of fatherhood work.
One more quick thing. I think we have potentially something to learn from the work-life conversation. It wasn't very long ago that paid family leave was paid maternity leave. Nobody was talking about men and women getting paid leave when their babies are born or to care for their families when they're needed. And that conversation progressed pretty quickly, again, because it was good for mothers and fathers, men and women. So potentially an area to look to in strategy in their playbook. We still have some work to go to get paid family leave, but closer than it used to be.
Thank you, Matt. Brother Raheem, give me your last word.
Yeah, thank you, Scott, for having me again. It's just really great seeing how this work is transformed over the years to where it is now. And Scott, maybe we need to bring the team back together, man. Let's start having these coalitions again. And to the point of Dr. James, expand it to the state. Different leaders in the state. We have a lot of fatherhood providers across the state. Maybe we can galvanize the troops here again. I think it was very cool back in the day, and now that we have Zoom and other things, maybe we can expand it. I've been having some really great discussions across the country with different providers and different people serving fathers and families. Let's do it.
Thank you, Raheem. I will be working on bringing the band back together. Frank Williams up in White Plains, any last words?
Yeah, my thing is, if we see the need, we meet the need. We meet people at their point of need, and we can't be afraid or intimidated. We have to be strong in our faith, strong in our conviction, and we go for it.
Thanks, Frank. AD, is AD still there? I can't see my list.
No, he's out.
Yeah, I think he chatted us that he had to leave.
Okay, go ahead, Coach. You're up. So you're up.
Wow, it was just incredible to be here today. I'm so excited to see the growth and the intelligence and the passion and the commitment. A couple of things I saw forward. The title of this is Reimagining Fatherhood. So all the plays that we've used over these many years, that playbook got to be put to the side. We got some great ones today. The getting dads to vote moving forward towards 2022, 2024, I believe the next one is. We have time. It was mentioned we have to look at a new audience. So maybe we need to go to some of the churches that we normally don't go to. Maybe we have to go to some clubs that don't look like us, that oftentimes were supposedly our enemy, but because we come in the name of fatherhood, it kind of opens doors that others will not. We have to look at some new options, reimagining. Last but not least, we're going to be working closely with you. I'm so glad that the lawyer was here with the program All Rise. It's been mentioned so many times. It's time. We did it many pilots. Getting fathers ready for court. Well, he said it before. As soon as we hear court, you already know that. I know how I felt. What? I was hiding. Huh? It's true, because you're fearful. So we came up with All Rise. Maybe it's time, particularly with Zoom. That's something we could do as a coalition to say, fathers who are getting ready to go to court, whatever, civil court, whatever, you got to go through our court first. And we'll be able to prepare you so that when you do go before court, you respect it and you'll be able to probably win your case, because now you are ready to take your family. Before you go to family court, tell them, I want to see my kids. Do you want to just see them or do you want to raise them? Big difference. So
wow, that was heavy. That was heavy, Coach. Do you want to see them or do you want to raise them?
I want to see them for a minute. You ain't cooked nothing.
Wow. Okay. So with that, I'm gonna jump over to Derek. Last word, Derek.
Scott, thank you again for organizing this. And I think it's, I'm just going to go back to it. I'm going to say it real quick. In terms of the shared parent, when we talk about shared parenting, it's not a father's rights that we're talking about. It is not father's rights. So this is shared parenting. And Scott, you mentioned Lena Green. Lena Green is also part of an organization called Women for Shared Parenting. You know, so when we talk about shared parenting, we're talking about a collective. We're really at the center of everything that we do. It's not about us individually, because you're not that important. I tell men all the time, you're really not that important. The work that we do is about our children. Right. So, and that's why we come together. That's why we work together collectively, because we know when we put our hands together, what we're going to do is we're going to create better opportunities for our children. And that means working with everybody. So that's really everything that we do. It's about our children. So thank you, Scott. And thank you, everybody, as well.
Sander, you're up.
That was great. That was great. The only thing missing from you, all you gentlemen, were the mic drops. I heard at least 5 mic drops by now. Goodness gracious. Oh, man. But gentlemen, thank you. This has been a great honor to be a part of this. It's definitely inspired me. I will definitely be going to my home office after this is done, and I'm going to approach a lot of the work that I have to do from a different perspective. What I'm definitely walking away with this is the importance from a hit 'em high, hit 'em low. Sort of strategy. And what I mean is to hit them low is the more grassroots, because I hear in different organizations, some that may be stronger in grassroots, while I hear in other organizations, some that may be better on the attacking from the policy angle. And, so some working Albany, so to speak, meaning that we're in New York, and some working the streets, of each county, each borough, each neighborhood, and developing numbers and then meeting in the middle. I tend to wonder, like a lot of achievers and a lot of overachievers and great talented people, do we tend to spread ourselves too thin in what we're trying to do? And that's where the overwhelm comes in. That's when the 20, 30 years, or Scott, comes and goes. You wonder, what are we doing? What has happened? But we already know, saving one life, like Matt said, 1, 2, 3 dads meeting is a great victory, right? But also what comes with that is, all right, now that we've been successful at this point, what is it going to take to get to the next level? And I think a thought needs to be introduced, whereas certain components, this is where the coalition may come into play, right? Certain components will be identified as, you're dealing with this segment of our challenge, and the other components, and we won't intersect until it's time to our semi-annual meetings or what have you. Am I making sense?
No, listen, you're definitely making sense. And some, I think part of my closing notes are you hear me say some stuff, but I want to go to back out to Dr. Rodriguez, who always inspires me, keeps me grounded, and keeps reminding me I got to finish my certificate.
No, I have to, man. It's a choice. My daughter wants me to cook dinner, so I'm going downstairs. They're like, I thought you were making mashed potatoes and chicken, even though I'm a vegetarian. But I do hope, I guess I have like 3 loved areas: New York, California, and Puerto Rico, because I'm a Cali New Yorican. So I always want to have the best for New York. And I'm astonished that Kentucky, I mean, I got educated today. Kentucky has something better than New York? Oh, come on now. Maybe the bourbon, that might be it. So that's also an opportunity, though, to expand some of the great works that were done in the early 2000s look at the strengths of them, but then make something new for right now. Don't try to reinvent something from the past. Just make something brand new and have it work, because most of those people, those legislators, they're not around anyways. And so it doesn't make any sense to try to go all the way back, but it is good to look and then keep going forward, because it's just like that analogy. When I drive, I need to see my rear view mirror to make sure no one's going to hit me from behind, and my side mirrors to make sure I don't cause an accident or get in or have someone hit me. Well, primarily, I better be looking forward. So hopefully one of the things looking forward is that there's a good strategic plan going forward. I love how you said it, like from high and low. Maybe that's one of the things, you create a plan that's got high, medium, and low, so that you don't lose out anyone in between. And I'm talking about the professionals working with parents daily, organizations to build their capacity, and having policymakers sit and listen about why it's important. Because if everyone advances, then all of us advance financially, emotionally, spiritually, etc. So that's why I really hope that that's something that comes out of your conversations going forward. Like, how can we create a strong coalition, network, association, whatever you want to call it, and make some strong changes? Why? One of the biggest things that when Stephen and Coach Lynn and some other people, we really were focusing on how the majority of people lived in the boroughs, but were upstate New York residents, and families had no access to them, and the big disconnect. And I bet it hasn't changed at all. All we did was put a spotlight on it for a little bit, and then no one went forward after that. So maybe you all can find the people to do it with yourselves and others. That would be the thing that I would look at going forward. How can we get a strong coalition?
Wow.
And call out all the legislators that don't want to do, and let them know, hey, we're just going to let our constituents know that you don't care. Not in those words, but basically.
All right, now you know I work for the government now, so.
Well, you know, watch The Godfather. You know that one scene. I love it, brother. You're not my brother. You're not my friend. You're nothing to me. I'm like, ooh, that's worse than hearing me. Oh my goodness.
So,
don't do that. Is this being recorded? Is this being recorded?
Yes, this is being recorded.
Oh my goodness, no. Don't do that. Never mind, scratch that.
Well, as long as I don't say it, I'm not part of that.
Coach Lynn, stop saying that.
I did it. That was my fault.
Be blessed, brothers. I got to get ghost.
Thank you.
Brother. All right, Jay.
So,
All right,
Jerry, hold on, guys. So we're wrapping up. So, Jerry, another great barbershop. How do you feel, my man?
I feel amazing, man. Like I said, it was an honor to be around just amazing men, amazing fathers, amazing initiatives that's happening for me. This is actually rather personal. Like, I've never met my father. If my father came right now and walked past me, I wouldn't know who that person was. And I made a decision very early in my life. When I had my child, I was like, hey, I'm going to be this amazing dad. And what's evolved to is that I wanted to be amazing dad with my brothers, the different men in the village of fathers that helped raise me. And I took that as a model to continue to build on what we're now calling reimagining fatherhood. So to be in this atmosphere, to know that we can extend a resource and build up more relationships for other fathers to do the same, if not better, is just an amazing feeling.
Wow. Thank you, my brother Jerry. So in closing, I hope everyone who logged in and got a chance to see. Oh, hold on. We got Tabiti here. Tabiti got on. Tabiti, I am not going to end without you saying something to the group. We got to stay another 10 minutes. Tabiti Boone, come on in here now. Hey, Tabiti. Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
I'm multitasking. Oh, my God. Yeah, I'm still in my other session. Hold on.
Well, this is Tabiti Boone's going to be coming in and speaking. I works with the New York Knicks.
You still not.
He's working with the New York Knicks, doing some work there. He also works with Allen Houston. He's also a part of the Obama campaign with fathers. So I just want to give Tabiti an opportunity to say a thing or two. I think he's having a little communication problems. But I wanted to see if I can get a chance to allow him in to say a few words. Tabiti, you still there or you dropped off? There he goes. Okay, Tabiti. Your video's working, but your sound's not.
No, I said I was multitasking. I'm still in the session.
Okay. So Tabiti,
Yeah,
say
I'm
something.
still in the session.
But we were just talking about policy and co-parenting and stuff.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say real quickly about the field of fatherhood? I know you.
No. I was just wanting to listen in for the last 5 minutes. I mean, I know it's been great. I mean, I just know that it's a field we need to just continue to support. You know, we've come so far, you know, when we had times where we, you know, didn't have this kind of conversation in our country. We didn't have the kind of leadership that we see, not only with you, Scott, but everybody in New York City and, you know, some of the national father leaders. So I'm just very excited that, you know, we've reached a point where fatherhood is in the minds of, you know, people in our society, and everybody recognize the critical role that fathers play. So I just think we have to continue to push the leadership, the advocacy, being a voice for fathers. We have to continue to push policies and legislation that are in favors of fathers. And then at the end of the day, we just have to make sure that we get the funding and the resources to help us continue to do the work that we're doing. So that's, you know, so that's just kind of, you know, my little quick PSA in terms of, you know, where we are and what we're doing. And I think we all have a part to play, you know, with it. We all have a part to play in terms of just advancing the movement, advancing the work, and advancing the cause.
Thank you, Tabiti. So in wrapping up for tonight, you definitely hit it on the head. So people out there, we have some work to do. Listening to tonight's conversation, it is very clear to me. One, we got to get the band back together so we can start working on some projects together. Two, we got to look at co-parenting and parenting bills and parenting situations, how we can bring both parents together to be successful. Three, we got to get ready to start grooming the next generation. So we have to work on grooming the next generation. And four, we got to get a solid policy agenda together to keep moving the work forward and doing great things. So being here at DYCD in the barbershop, I want to thank all our panelists. Some of them couldn't stay on. If you have opportunity to fill out the survey, we'll be on next Tuesday. Once again, we'll be talking about Pride to help celebrating Pride Month, which is June. So we have a panel of groups that's going to be here next Tuesday. We hope that you join us for that. And once again, we hope to see you soon in the DYCD Barbershop.